Tsutomu Miyazaki was a Japanese serial killer, cannibal, and a necrophile who abducted and violently murdered 4 young girls. His crimes included vampirism and the preservation of the corpses. He also enjoyed mailing the little girls' body parts to their grieving families. My name is Charisse, and this is Arts and Crimes. So, as you can tell by the intro, this is gonna be a pretty dark case. I'm gonna get real graphic with this one. Warning, the following program contains material that may ruin your life and may make you feel icky. Viewer discretion is advised. Sorry. Let's take a trip to Itsukaishi, Tokyo, Japan. Ooh, an early fun fact. Itsukaishi was a town located in the Tokyo metropolis of Japan. With its 25,000 inhabitants, Itsukaishi has beautiful shrines, forests, and of course, the food. Tsutomu Miyazaki was born into a wealthy but odd family. His father had an incestuous relationship with his own sister, and he wound up impregnating her. On August 21st, 1962, Miyazaki was born. Now, it's been said that he was born premature, that he was born with a rare deformity. Many sources claim that Miyazaki's hands were fused directly to his wrist or something, which I get. I mean, if you're having kids from incest, you're kind of getting into the science experiment thing, right? Don't do it. But this wasn't the case. In fact, this is said to be an image of Miyazaki's deformed hands. In tons of articles that I found, news stories, podcasts, and biographies, they say that these are his hands. So, let me be the first to tell you, it's bullshit. Thing is, those aren't Miyazaki's hands. No. This picture is actually from a medical textbook on Marfan syndrome, which is a genetic disorder that affects the connective tissues. But Miyazaki did suffer a slight deformity, but nothing like this image. Miyazaki's hands are clearly visible in a number of photos taken after his arrest. They show no signs of a severe deformity. Sorry, not sorry. Miyazaki's family owned a regional newspaper company and were well known in the town. His grandfather and great-grandfather had served on the town council. Due to his parents being busy, Miyazaki was mainly raised by his grandfather and an intellectually disabled man the family hired as a nanny. Because he kept to himself so often, Miyazaki was able to focus more on his studies. This is the reason why he excelled past his classmates at the time. He attended a prestigious high school, and he was a star student up until his grades began to drop dramatically. Miyazaki was ranked 40 out of 56 in his class and did not receive the customary admission to attend this university that he wanted to go to. I mean, 40 out of 56, I don't understand how the grade system works in Japan, but I can't tell if 40 is bad. But like, I was a straight C student, so I don't know. I would probably be homeless in Japan, I swear. I had a thing in my tooth and no one told me because no one's here. God damn it. Damn it. This is dead. God damn it. God damn it. People are like, oh, why don't you eat your vegetables? Well, because they get stuck in my freaking teeth. Miyazaki attended a local junior college and studied to become a photography technician. And if you're like me, wondering what the heck that is, you see in large companies, photographic technicians, they usually specialize in film processing, like developing and printing the film, and digital scanning, manipulation of images, or finishing the print, like laminating or mounting the thingies. So there you go. In the mid-1980s, Miyazaki moved back to his parents' house in Itsukaishi. Remember? Although Miyazaki's family was highly influential in the area, he expressed no desire to take over his father's print shop. Miyazaki longed to be listened to by his parents. Oh, tragedy. Get over it. His grandfather, who was a highly respected man in the area, seemed to be the only one to take a genuine interest in Miyazaki's life. There you go, see? Relax. In May 1988, Miyazaki's grandfather died, which served to deepen his depression and isolate him even further. So what do you do when you want to feel closer to a loved one that has departed? Do you pray to the loved one? Do you visit them at their gravestones? But not Miyazaki. No. Miyazaki decided it'd be best to eat his grandfather's ashes. A few weeks later, one of Miyazaki's sisters caught him watching her while she was taking a shower, and he attacked her when she told him to leave. Both of his younger sisters, by the way, found him absolutely repulsive. Miyazaki avoided women his own age. Sources claim he was physically immature. His penis is no thicker than a pencil and no longer than a toothpick, a high school classmate remarked. Burn! Thing is, his sex drive was stronger than average. Ew. At college, he took his video cameras and he would go to the tennis courts and he would take crotch shots of the female players. What a guy. Reading so many adult porn magazines eventually got him tired of it. He would complain that the porn industry would black out the most important part. So let me tell you what he means by that. By 1984, he had turned to child pornography, which shows everything because obscenity laws ban the showing of pubic hair, not actual sex organs. So he started looking at prepubescent pornography, whether it be real children or in anime. Oh, God. I said warning earlier, right? As a boy, he made no close friends and therefore gained no information about sex in the real world. Though I feel like they should be teaching you that in school. Or is that controversial? Should I be saying this? Should I edit this out? We'll see. Anyways, instead he turned to anime, manga, and pornography for his thrills. So yeah, this guy is something else, right? But wait, there's more. In the early afternoon of August 22nd, 1988, 4-year-old Mary Kono left her apartment to play with her friends. Her father called the police at 6:23 p.m. in a panic after his daughter did not return. Little did he know, in a dark forest only 50 kilometers away, his daughter Mary was being slowly strangled to death. You see, earlier that afternoon, Mary was making her way to the park, being all cute, when suddenly Miyazaki pulls up in his Nissan sedan. Miyazaki asked Mary if she would like a ride. Mary, being innocent, nodded and took his hand, and she skipped towards his car. Stranger, danger, stranger, danger, stranger, danger, stranger, danger. This story hurts my soul. Miyazaki took Mary to a destination down a mountain bike path where hikers go. This trail is around Komine Pass. Miyazaki then put his hands on her throat and squeezed the life from her tiny body. When she finally went limp, he then proceeded to undress her and fondle her. He dumped her body in the hills near his home, and he brought her clothes with him. He then allowed the body to decompose before removing her hands and feet, which he kept in his closet. So ended the brief life of Mary Kono. She was 4 years old, you guys. And that began the murderous career of Tsutomu Miyazaki, a 26-year-old printer's assistant. Shortly after her disappearance, police squad cars with loudspeakers patrolled the streets, warning parents to keep their children in all times. Although it was officially tagged as a missing persons case, police started the investigation as a murder right from the beginning. The police spent many days interviewing people around Mari's home, and they sent out about 50,000 posters with Mari's picture across the nation. Unfortunately, nothing came of these efforts. 6 weeks after Mary's disappearance, Miyazaki struck again. Ugh, God, he's like the worst superhero of Japan. Anyway, on the afternoon of October 3rd, 1988, he spotted Masami Yoshizawa, a 7-year-old first grader. She was walking along the roadside. He coaxed her into his car in the promise of a simple ride to wherever she was going. But instead, he drove her to the hills above Komaini Pass, the scene of the first murder. He proceeded to strangle her to death. He then stripped her quickly before rigor mortis set in. And if you don't know what rigor mortis is, it's a stage of decomposition when the body starts to become stiff. So he removed the clothes quickly before that set in. Oh, and he violated the corpse once again. When her little body began to convulse involuntarily, Miyazaki was frightened, and he ran back to his car and drove off. He left her remains less than 300 feet from where the bones of Mary Kono lay bleaching in the sun. After she was reported missing later that night, local search parties fanned out across the area. Soon, Masami's face stared down from hundreds of posters issued by the police. Again, no clues to the girl's whereabouts were found. Masami's home was only 13 kilometers from Mari's. Luckily, the police were suspicious enough to compare the two cases, but they had neither leads or bodies. Miyazaki never displayed much concern for life. He told reporters, quote, "I've killed cats, threw one in the river, did another in with boiling water." He also said that he strangled his dog to death with a strand of wire. What a terrible person. Right? So bad. He's a bad man. He's a bad man. You're the bestest boy. You're the best boy. I'm the bestest boy. Yeah! Sorry. First of all, like, children and animals are the most innocent of all us human beings. Yes, animals are human beings. But, like, they're the most innocent ones on this planet. How can you be so mean? Hello, my name is Charisse, and I am a lawyer. Not really. And I'm here to bring you a PSA. If you or someone you love choose to hurt a child or an animal, please contact your local industrial area and find a baler attached with an incinerator, and please step inside, okay? Thanks. Bye.
We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
Anywho, let's continue because, honey, there is still more. So that little startle that he had that I mentioned earlier while he was killing Masami, this indeed upset Miyazaki. But still, he would kill again before 1988 was even over. Actually, a mere 2 months later, on December 12, 1988 to be exact. Erika Namba was returning from a friend's house when Miyazaki lured her into his sedan. The poor baby was already crying. He told Erika to undress in the back seat, and then he began to photograph her. Miyazaki then killed Erika, tied her hands and feet behind her back, covered her with a bed sheet, and placed her body in the trunk of his car. He disposed of Erika's clothes in a wooded area by his house, and he left her body in the adjoining parking lot, where it was discovered 3 days later. On the 20th of December, Erika's family received a postcard sent by Miyazaki with a message assembled using words cut out of magazines. Erika, cold, cough, throat, rest, death. Mari and Masami's bodies were never found, and unfortunately, no clues were found to shed light on Erika's murder as well. It was pretty hard to find a day when the cases weren't covered on TV, and upon discovering Erika's body, the town was just engulfed with dread and fear. It would be another summer before Miyazaki killed again. However, he did remain busy. In the early morning hours of February 6, Mari's father, remember the first murder? Yeah, okay, cool. So anyways, Mari's father was about to head to work. Well, he found a box on his doorstep. This box contained ashes, dirt, fragments of charred bones, and 10 baby teeth, along with photos of a child's shorts, underwear, and sandals. There was also a single sheet copier paper with 5 words written on it. Mari, bones, cremated, investigate, proof. Miyazaki had returned to the death site, as he had done several times, and he removed the remains. Mari's father then contacted the authorities right away. The 10 small teeth found among the ashes were immediately turned over to the legal division of the Tokyo Dental University for examination, where Dr. Kazu Suzuki concluded they actually did not belong to Mari. Then the police told the media, the news, yada yada, broken telephone, basically saying like, no, that's not hers. Dr. Suzuki turned around and he was like, oops, my bad. Yeah, those teeth are your daughter's. I don't know, but that's just what happened. Dr. Suzuki, you need to get your shiznits in order, my friend. On February 11, a 3-page letter arrived to Mary's family home, along with a Polaroid type photo of Mari. The letter was titled Crime Confession, and this letter read, quote, I put the cardboard box with Mari's remain in it, in front of her home. I did everything, from the start of the Mari incident to the finish. I saw the police press conference where they said the remains were not Mari's. On camera, her mother said the report gave her new hope that Mari might still be alive. I knew then that I had to write this confession so that Mari's mother would not continue to hope in vain. I say again, the remains are Mari's. Unquote. This guy is such a dork. I'm sorry, but I'm getting worked up, but what the f, right? Well, the confession caused an uproar. The next day, the police finally classified the Mari Kono case as a homicide, and they set up a command post to investigate her abduction and murder. The police did, however, the police did identify the snapshot of Mari as one taken with a Mamiya 6x7 camera, like those used by printer shops. But this would become another clue that was inadequately followed up, just saying. They concluded that the box was doubled walled and corrugulated, or whatever it's called, which is often used to ship camera lenses. And the typeface on the postcards was determined to come from a photo typesetter and copied on an industrial copier. But whatever. Okay, I'm just saying. Those are clues. They had it there. I'm just reporting. Police later refused to comment on whether or not they launched an investigation of any printing shops in the area. Mari's parents waited 3 weeks before the police officially announced that the box contained the remains of their daughter. The box contained almost an entire skeleton, and 2 of the teeth matched perfectly with x-rays of Mari's dental work. Over 7 months after she was declared missing, Mari was laid to rest. During the funeral, Mari's father said, quote, her hands and feet didn't seem to be with the remains. When she gets to heaven, she won't be able to walk or eat. Please return the rest of her remains. The nightmare wasn't over. Mari's parents returned home from the funeral to find yet another letter. This guy, leave him alone. You've done enough. God. Anyways, this letter simply read, confession. This confession was basically the chronicle changes that Miyazaki had observed about Mari's dead body. Great, thanks. It read, quote, before I knew it, the child's corpse had gone rigid. I wanted to cross her hands over her breasts, but they wouldn't budge. Pretty soon, the body gets red spots all over it. Big red spots, like the Hinumaru flag. Or like you'd cover her whole body with red hanko seals. After a while, the body is covered with stretch marks. It was so rigid before, but now it feels like it's full of water. And it smells. How it smells. Like nothing you've ever smelled in this whole wide world. Unquote. Fun fact. Again, the Hinumaru flag here is basically the flag of Japan. Also, just so you know, the red Henko seals that he was talking about are not red spotted sea creatures like I thought. They actually are these stamp thingies. So It's basically a signature, but in stamp form. Apparently, in Japan, they're used every day. It's like for signing a lease or for a car or something like that. Anywho, in spite of hints offered by these confession letters, the police were unable to pick up Miyazaki's trail. By the summer of 1989, Miyazaki was growing restless. He skipped work more often to spend hours sitting cross-legged in his room editing his precious little videotapes. Do you imagine a little troll in a dark, funky, stinky room? Because I do. So, on the first day of June, he saw little girls playing near an elementary school. He coaxed one of them to take her clothes off. As he began to photograph her, some neighbors spotted him and they were able to chase him off. Despite this close call though, Miyazaki would butcher his fourth victim just 5 days later. On June 6, he left his bungalow for the tennis courts once again. But today, the courts were closed. Miyazaki decided to go to a nearby park and he found 5-year-old Ayako Nomoto, and she was playing alone. Casually removing the lens cap from his camera, Miyazaki approached Ayako and then he asked her to pose for some pictures. He then took several shots of her until she got used to him. "Let's take some photos inside the car," he said, leading her to his sedan. Miyazaki parked some 800 meters away as Ayako was in the back seat. He handed her a stick of gum. The poor innocent girl commented on his deformed hands. She didn't know, she was just a little kid. So anyways, he commented on his deformed hands, and then this enraged Miyazaki. He pulled out a pair of vinyl gloves, wrapped his nasty ass fingers around her fragile little throat, and he began to strangle her. Little Ayako didn't stand a chance against his rage. And to make sure she was dead, he taped her mouth and tied her hands with rope. Then, he wrapped the body in a sheet and put her in the trunk of his car. This time though, he took the body home. He stopped by a photography shop to rent a camera. And then, he waited 2 hours in his parking lot. After 2 hours, he proceeded to carry the tiny corpse inside the house. This is where he would strip off all the clothes and clean the corpse with a damp towel. He then took photographs and videos of the lifeless Ayako and violated the corpse. Afterwards, he bound up the hands and feet once again and covered the body with 3 sheets. 2 days later, the odor of the decomposing body became too unbearable for him. Although he was right in believing that police were nowhere near identifying him as the little girl killer, Miyazaki knew he had to dispose of the body. So, with a knife and a saw, he would dismember the head, hands, and feet. Then, he hid the torso near the public restroom at a cemetery at midnight. Here we go. He then roasted Ayoko's hands in his backyard. He ate some of her flesh and he drank her blood. She was decomposed at this time. What are you doing? He proceeded to dispose the rest of the remains into the woods in front of his house. But fearing that the police would find Ayoko's body parts, Miyazaki returned to the cemetery and the hills 2 weeks later. And he carried the remains back to his apartment. And then he hid them in a bag and then put him in his closet in the back of his room. And then once again, later on, he scattered the bones in the woods. Then he burnt her hair and the clothes and the blood-stained plastic bags and the sheets. Despite Miyazaki's butchery, the remains were quickly identified. The blood type and chest size matched those of Ayoko. The stomach contents also matched Ayoko's last meal. In the end, Miyazaki's gruesome career was cut short by a citizen, despite the massive police forces pitted against him. On Sunday, July 23rd, 1989, 2 sisters were playing near a public restroom when Miyazaki stopped his car and then he got out. You know the story. "You stay here," he told the eldest 9-year-old. A 9-year-old is a little too old for his liking. He then tried to bring her younger sister toward a nearby river, but the older sister was smart enough to run home and she screamed for her father. The father of the girl sprinted back to that park and he found his youngest daughter in a state of undress with Miyazaki focusing a camera between her legs. Oh, by the way, he was naked too. The father grabbed Miyazaki and knocked him down. So Miyazaki was able to twist away, and then he was nakedly running the swampy edge of the river to escape, like the fucked up little troll that he is. Thankfully, when Miyazaki returned to his car, the police were right there, waiting for him. Bitch, where do you think you're going? They finally apprehended Miyazaki on the charge of forcing a minor to commit indecent acts. The police clearly believed they had found their serial killer. The news media were so convinced that Miyazaki was the man that they beat the police to Miyazaki's home. This is where they would film Miyazaki's room. 17 days later, Miyazaki confessed to murdering Ayoko, whose skull was found the next day in the woods. The other confessions followed swiftly. First, the murder of Erika Namba, then Mari Kano, of whom video clips were discovered among the 6,000 tapes in Miyazaki's nasty-ass lair. Miyazaki was later dubbed from Ratman or Little Girl Killer to the Otaku Killer. The public started calling him Otaku, which is a Japanese term and it means someone who is obsessed with something, often anime, manga, or similar subjects, but to a point of detachment from reality. This was because of the mountains of evidence found at his home, which housed violent horror movies, pornography, tons of anime, manga, etc. So for those of you that don't know, Japanese fun fact, the word anime is an abbreviation of the word animation. In Japan, the word is used to refer to all animation. God, I love anime. You got Sailor Moon, obviously, it's on my hand. Meow, meow, meow. You got Pokemon. By mid-September, after preliminary psychological tests by psychiatrists, they concluded that Miyazaki showed no immediate apparent disorders. He then confessed to the fourth of the little girl murders. On September 6, Masami Yoshizawa's remains were found in the woods. The half-chewed bones of Mari Kano's hands and feet were discovered nearby. Miyazaki's father refused to hire a lawyer for his son. It wouldn't be fair to his victims, he said. The public defender's office looked long and hard before finding two lawyers who were willing to take the case. One lawyer agreed because of his heavy opposition towards the death penalty. The death penalty is well deserved for this guy. No? Maybe. Yeah. This guy. I mean, let's list his obsessions, okay? Pedophilia, necrophilia, sadism, fetishism, and catacol. It's a lot. Miyazaki's trial began on March 30th, 1990. He spent time during the trial drawing a cartoon image of this guy, like he called Ratman. Ratman. See, the worst superhero ever. Ratman is his alter ego he claimed forced him to kill. Okay. A 7-year trial focused on Miyazaki's mental state at the time of the murders. In Japan, feeble-minded people and people who claim insanity, basically, are often unpunished. Psychiatrists appointed by the court each came with different conclusions, though. Regarding Miyazaki's ability to know the difference of right and wrong, or even know what they are. According to the Tokyo District Court, Miyazaki knew the magnitude and the consequences of his crimes. So, he was accountable. He was sentenced to death on April 14, 1997. Whoop whoop! But seriously, I want to bring him back to life just so I could kill him again. Miyazaki described his serial murders as an act of charity. Ooh. He's testing me, eh? All that remains of Miyazaki's parents' house and printing complex is the open lot and the small 2-room annex where Miyazaki slept, among his teetering stacks of gruesome videotapes, anime and manga, and all that jazz. Miyazaki's parents publicly disowned him and went into hiding soon after their son's confessions. His father committed suicide in 1994. So yeah, that's the story and downfall of this piece of guy called Tsutomu. Who cares? Miyazaki. Rude. This guy was a real douche canoe. So leave your thoughts in the comment section if you want. I don't know. I need a puppy. Hi. Leave a like if you hate this guy, Miyazaki. Leave a comment if you hate this guy, Miyazaki. And don't forget to subscribe if you hate Miyazaki. Say bye, Louie. Bye, Louie. Okay, bye.